I'm Kalila Reynolds and welcome to Taking Stock. We're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. So come on, let's get this money. First up, when will we be able to party again? The entertainment industry has been one of the worst hit sectors from the COVID-19 economic lockdown, with several major events including Reggae Sumfest and Carnival cancelled. But industry insiders are coming up with a plan for their sector's reopening. We'll find out more from Director for Logistics and Execution at 2K Entertainment and 658 Series Gabrielle Curling, and Marketing and Communications Director at Strictly 2K and Soca Forever, Ibrahim IB Konteh. And later, the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. JPS has come under much public scrutiny in the past few weeks for what many say are unjustly high light bills. What does this mean for JPS's upcoming IPO? And Sagicor Real Estate X Fund is reporting $4.5 billion in losses for the quarter ending March. We'll discuss. But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart. JPS was summoned to appear before Cabinet Monday to explain why so many people's light bills are so high. Complaints of exorbitant bills have increased since March, when the government ordered certain people to stay at home. Many JPS customers, including the Attorney General Marlene Malahou Fort, have taken to social media to elevate their concerns. In light of the widespread complaints, Energy Minister Favour Williams has requested that the Office of Utilities Regulations, OUR, audit JPS. JPS has said it welcomes the audit. The company says more usage by some residential customers, the cost of fuel, and the depreciation of the Jamaican dollar have all contributed to the higher light bills. The Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, is headed to court on behalf of 17 listed companies, including itself, which are seeking to hold their annual general meetings, AGMs, virtually. The Prime Minister recently exempted AGMs from public gathering restrictions, but some companies are still finding it hard to hold their AGMs in accordance with the Companies Act due to small venues which don't have enough space for physical distancing. The Supreme Court will hear the claim on June 24. The application also asks that voting be allowed electronically or by other means before or at the meeting or by proxy. Scotiabank is to introduce real-time billing and eliminate the monthly account fee come August 1. President and CEO of Scotia Group Jamaica, David Noel, says the changes will allow for full transparency on each service charge and will give customers the flexibility to manage the charges to their accounts. He says customers will only be charged for the transactions they conduct. For example, when completing an ATM withdrawal, the ATM transaction plus GCT will be billed immediately to the account. DIGICEL says its DIGICEL Group 1 scheme of arrangement is now effective, signifying the end of the debt reduction process announced on April 1. The process is expected to be completed this week. DIGICEL has been engaging with bondholders for months to strike a deal to slash $1.6 billion off its $7 billion debt. The Bermuda Supreme Court approved the scheme of arrangement on June 8. It's also been sanctioned by a U.S. bankruptcy court. The deal will reduce its annual interest payments by $125 million and cut its total debt to $5.4 billion. The maturities of some debt securities will also be extended. And WhatsApp users in Brazil can now send money to others within a chat, attaching payments as they would a photo or video. The Facebook-owned messaging service rolled out the digital payment system last week, working with Brazil's largest credit and debit card operator, Cielo, to process payments. The system uses Facebook Pay and is free to individual users while charging businesses a fee to receive payments. WhatsApp began testing the system back in 2018 in India. However, the Brazil launch is the first nationwide rollout. What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart. And when we come back, socially distant whining? We'll hear from two players in the entertainment industry about how they think partying in the time of COVID can work. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agent. Insurance made easy. Welcome back to Taking Stock. Stakeholders in the entertainment industry have come up with a plan in the hopes of reopening as soon as possible. To discuss, we have Director for Logistics and Execution at 2K Entertainment and 658 Series, Gabrielle Curling, and Marketing and Communications Director at Strictly 2K and Soca Forever, Ibrahim IB Konteh.
Hi IB, hi Gabrielle, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so before we get started on the plans that your group has come up with to reopen the entertainment sector, you're both in entertainment. Tell me what it's been like these past 3 months not operating under lockdown. IB, start with you and tell me what type of business you're in and what the effect has been.
So I have operated an events management company in DC actually, and also in Jamaica. So I was affected where 4 of my events had to be canceled. On a personal level, it's affected where, the kids having to explain to them why they can't go to school or they can't go with their friends. But so the last 3 months has been rough. But,
which events are those? Which events are those? We're familiar with them?
Right, yeah. So Strictly 2K Best of the 2000, which is, not to my own horn, but it is without a doubt the best throwback party we have in Kingston at the moment, and Soca Forever, which is one of the top soca parties we have right now.
Okay. So have you had an income at all over the past 3 months? Is this solely what you do?
Right. So fortunately, I co-author a book. And the good thing about it is that the sales has been doing really well because it's a book about Black royalty, especially with everything that's going on now, everybody being so socially conscious. But also I work at a bank. I'm a banker. So, I'm fortunate that I have a 9-to-5. But, some of my colleagues, for example, like Gabrielle, had to be creative, in the event that they don't have a 9-to-5, had to look to start a new business, but Gabby can tell you more on that.
Mm-hmm. So Gabrielle, tell me about your business. What events do you host and what has been the impact?
So I am as well a director in Strictly 2K. I'm also a director in a weekly series called 658, which is held at the Mecca venue in Marketplace. So that event would have had to been cancelled, which is a stream of income separate from my 9-to-5. I work or used to work in the hospitality industry. I have been laid off due to COVID because restaurants have been hit hard by COVID. The adaptation to delivery and curbside, the chances are just not the same for all restaurants. So COVID has been rough. It's just a time to be innovative, but the time now more than ever as we slowly unwind, it's time for the entertainment industry to reopen.
So both your streams of income, Gabrielle, have been hit, both in tourism and in entertainment. So both essentially are hospitality, and both hit. So give me some ballpark figures, like how much money do events like this typically bring in, and how many people would you employ? So how big of an impact is it that we haven't been having an entire industry for 3 months?
So from a ministry level, the Ministry of Entertainment, the figure that they gave about a few weeks ago was that $26 billion the entertainment industry has lost since the closure. Yeah, $26 billion. And that I believe and that's not even looking at the income that is generated from an event. So, so persons who are directly employed to an event, so we're talking persons also who are not directly employed by an event. So we're talking the barber shops are affected, the jerk chicken man, for you to go out, you're gonna do your hair and your makeup, correct, the hairdressers, and for you, you're gonna go buy clothes, the nail tech. So everybody has been feeling it. And of course, entertainment is the lifeblood of our country. So, so everybody has been really feeling it.
And not to mention that a lot of it is informal. So we may be quoting numbers that we may not have a vast amount of the data on. So for example, round robins and fish fries and cake sales, those events are big in communities and they do generate good income for persons that are executing them.
When you look at the bigger events as well, you're talking Carnival canceled, Reggae Sumfest canceled, big ticket events that bring in visitors to the island as well. So I can understand naturally why you all would be very eager to reopen. Everybody's been eager to reopen and tourism has had the opportunity to reopen. But I'm trying to wrap my mind around how it works for, say, a soca event, where there's a lot of body-to-body contact at an event like this.
Right.
People, you wind up on each other. How do you wind socially distant? I saw a meme with a young man whining on a young woman through a glass. I know it's supposed to be funny, but how do you actually do it? So tell me about the ideas that you guys have come up with.
It's interesting you bring up that point. I was talking to one of my friends that's on a planning committee for one of our neighboring island, Carnival, and one of the ideas that they're floating around is bumper to bumper, not bumper to fender. So you have to explain
that one to me. Bumper to bumper, not bumper to fender.
So you're whining, not bumper to fender. So you're whining your back to your back, I know. Right. So those are one of the things.
But that's still contact.
Correct. Those are one of the things we're trying to figure out, and we're having different ideas thrown out there. One of them is having COVID-19 monitors, but it's almost impossible to not have social distancing at a party, because you go there to socialize. So some of the things that we're thinking about is, to ensure that, upon entry, we will have sanitization station, we will have hand wash station, bartenders and all staff, will have face shields, or wear their mask and so forth. And one of the first things that we're looking to do is to retrain all staff. So things that they would do before to ensure that, they're being trained properly, but whether by a representative from the Ministry of Health, to ensure that, while of course we want to maintain that quality service, but their health and safety is what is most important at this particular time. And one of the ideas that we're suggesting is also as it relates to where contact tracing is concerned. So that's an idea we've put forward to the ministry. So in the event, let's say somebody that they found, had COVID, and, during the course of a week, they went to a supermarket, they went to church, but they also went to an event. And, the idea that we've presented as it relates to contact tracing, we want to be proactive to say, okay, we have the data can show you that, okay, they went to this event. These are all the persons that went to the event. So we want to be proactive where things are concerned. Hence, while we had the meeting, we say, the success and the failure of our industry rests on our hands. So, we had a really good meeting, and Gabrielle can tell you a little bit more and where we came up with these suggestions.
Yeah, I want to hear more about the contact tracing, Gabrielle. So what would that entail? Is that using technology, something on your app?
Definitely. As the new norm rolls out, it's more of a digital world. A genius idea that came out was the use of the Jam COVID app. Just not any app, but that app in particular, because it directly gives access to the Ministry of Health and the respective bodies to the data that they will need. So this system will look like you're interested in going into this event. You click on a tab, you fill out a short survey. I have not been in contact with anybody with COVID. I intend to go to this party. This app may include a waiver in terms of to pretty much put the weight of responsibility, some of it into the hands of the patrons, where, they are accepting that they're choosing to go to the event. They have declared themselves, their information is there. They come to an event and they're scanned. So that is one aspect that, we're looking to flesh out more. Scan a barcode.
Oh,
so they would have registered on the app, been produced, a QR code. And, when they present themselves to the venue, they would have, pretty much checked in that, they're on location, they're here. So that data now would be used in the event that it needs to be used for contact tracing. And this we would have discussed and, gotten a round of applause from the CEO for Amber Technologies, developers of the Jam COVID app.
So you basically have to apply to go to the party. And can you be rejected?
That's a very good question that you ask. We are in the idea phase. So we literally, we brought the idea. One of the first thing we did, we contacted the CEO for Amber Innovation and they love it. So we've presented the idea. So we're going to see if it's accepted because it's one of the best ideas that we have thus far as it relates to where contact tracing. Because, we understand that a lot of the responsibility is going to come down to the patron as well. So we as the event managers, we're going to put measures in place to ensure that they are safe. We're going to have our 6-foot markers upon entry, the various things that, we're going to do to ensure that they're safe. But also a lot of it is going to be personal responsibility. So if it is that, you're supposed to do X and you don't do Y, you're going to be putting yourself and others in danger. So the idea behind in terms of contact tracing is that in the event that the ministry needs this information, we as an entertainment industry can say, okay, well, if they went to 10 places and one of those 10 places is one of our events, we have the information to who they possibly could have been in contact with.
Which could be thousands of people for a big event.
Correct.
But one of the big challenges that you all are going to have, though, in trying to convince people to, even if it does reopen, to come out, is that at an entertainment event like this, people are drinking a lot. Mm-hmm. And people who are under the influence don't make the wisest choices, especially as it relates to safety. So are people really going to be sanitizing their hands and keeping their mask on when they're consuming alcohol?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And also, it's something that we plan to do in terms of our communication. So whenever it is that, the phases begin, because yesterday and today, they've been having consultation session. And even out of our meeting, our suggestion is that we should reopen on a phase basis, small numbers. So like phase 1, be it 100 patron, phase 2, 300, phase 3, 500 patron. And then after, if it all goes well, we go back to normal, so to speak. But what is going to come down to, again, is personal responsibility. But it's also, so it's us communicating to patrons from early to say, hey, because this is really how our meeting started. It was us saying, hey, you know what? We take this thing really seriously and we want to play a proactive role. So let us have like the best minds. And it was a really inclusive meeting because it's not just members of large festival, but we're talking about promoters of round robin, bar parties, cake sale, etc. These things that Gabrielle mentioned, and it was not just promoters from Kingston, but also promoters across the island, from rural area, from St. Anne, from St. James, and so forth. A really inclusive group to just hear what everyone is saying, and that it's out of that discussion we're saying, we believe that for us to be proactive, contact tracing should be something that we should do, and this is how it should be done. And these are also the other measures. But at the start of it, we're going to communicate to patrons to say, hey, as event managers, we're putting your health and your safety as our number one priority. So it's not just reopen the entertainment industry because we're broke. We want things to get back to normal, but we want things to be back to normal in a safe and controlled way.
How many people you had at the meeting?
72.
Oh, that's quite a good number. And you said they were from all across the island.
Correct, correct.
Yeah. So Gabrielle, tell me about some of the other measures that came up, some of the other ideas.
So other than contact tracing, the extent, there was a debate between, do we take a numbers approach? The government has taken a numbers approach to how, capacity. Do we take, are we going to start with 100 persons in the first phase, 300 in the second phase, 500, what does an event look like, during this, phase reopening versus, venues? Do we certify venues? Are there Ministry of Health and, Ministry of Entertainment certified venues to say, you can use this venue at 25% capacity, 50% capacity, in various phases. So these are the types of conversations that we're having. How do we change events? Do we have to, innovate? Are we having tailgate events? So there's a lot of, conversation on what does a space of entertainment look like again? How do musicians perform? Because singing and, shouting in mics, the virus those ways as well. So in terms of concerts, what does that space look like in a phased reopening?
Would you have to wear a mask at an event?
That is being explored, and a big aspect to our movement is doing the proper research. So we would have engaged necessary parties to get a feel from our patrons, because we're in the business to please them, to get their feedback in terms of what are they comfortable in adjusting for their entertainment experience. Because if it no longer feels like entertainment for them, they probably will not indulge. So the culture and and the minds of our patrons as well is top of mind for us.
Yeah, because on that point that Gabrielle made, one of the things that we have done as well, we've engaged data mining company Blue Dot, where they're going to be doing some surveys for us. So we're waiting to see, what persons are saying. What are you willing to do? What sort of information or what sort of comfort are you willing to give up to party? Are you willing to purchase bottles instead of drinks? If you're going to purchase mixed drink, does it have to be sealed? So these sort of questions that we have to open our mind to. So we all have to play our part. So pretty much what we're saying to the wider country is that, we are playing our part to put your health and your safety as our number one priority. And we're having an open mind, understanding that, when things start to open back, we're not expecting to be making any profit. Matter of fact, a general consensus from everyone is we're just trying to stay afloat. We're just trying to have some form of normal, because really and truly, as human beings, we're not meant to be inside, to be cooped up in the house like this. We're meant to socialize. We're meant to be out there. So that means we all have to have an open mind how this is going to be done, and and expect some changes. Some you may not be comfortable with, but it's what's most important for your safety.
But before we wrap up, I want to hear your thoughts as well on this whole, like the IG live parties and so on. You guys would be aware of the versus that Beenie Man and Bounty Killer were on, and there's been some attempt by some in the industry to kind of monetize that. I know it's just a little bit of what it used to be, but it's also a new avenue of revenue that we hadn't taken advantage of before, at least not to the level that with the attention that we've gotten from, say, a Versus. Do you think that's a space that can be used more?
It's tricky because content on social media is usually indulged in free of cost. So to start to charge for it, persons may be hesitant, but pay-per-view may be something in the future for entertainment industry, because pay-per-view is, in entertainment through, boxing, through wrestling. So it may, trickle down to parties and events. We at, for Strictly 2K, we had our own Strictly 2K Live, but more so from a brand than, hey, friends, we're still out here. Let's, have a good time inside. But you're right. Entertainment may look to that direction in the future. I'm sure IB will agree.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something I believe will be part of the new normal, because some persons are even saying, I may not be going out that actively and get into the online party space. So that's definitely something that, as an industry, other persons are also thinking about.
Well, thanks for joining me, IB and Gabrielle. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope things work out for you guys soon. I really do, because I know it's tough on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. All
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When we come back, I've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy. Time now for your market recap, brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. The Jamaica Stock Exchange declined last week with the combined index losing less than 1%. 96 stocks traded across both the main and junior markets of the JSE for the week ending Friday, June 19, 2020. 42 advanced, 40 declined, and 14 traded firm. Nearly 106 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling $2 billion. Wigton Wind Farm ordinary shares traded the most, taking up nearly 18% of market volume. The stock gained 3 cents to open the week at 79 cents. NCB Financial Group traded the second most, with people buying and selling 11 million shares in the company. NCB lost $1.71 to open the week at $139.72. And Select F rounded out the most traded, taking up nearly 10% of market volume. The stock lost 1 cent to close last week at 73 cents. Now let's see who had the biggest gains. JetCon jumped nearly 27% to close last week at $1.23. Sterling Investments USD rose 20% to close last week at 2 cents US. And Cargo Handlers rounded out the biggest gains to open the week at $7.84. On the losing side now, CAC 2000 fell nearly 15% to close last week at $8. 138 Student Living Jamaica fell nearly 12% to end last week at $5.20, and Fontana lost nearly 10% down to $5.40. Market Recap was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers and Proven Wealth. Welcome back to Taking Stock. I've got a team of analysts to examine the week in business. I'm joined by Assistant General Manager of Treasury and Trading at JMMB, Greg Lindo, and investor and host of Earnings Season, Randy Rowe.
Hi, Randy. Hi, Greg. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good to have you both on, especially you, Randy, because I know you're a hard man to get for this show. I know you're very busy with everymickle.com and earnings season. Yeah, lots going on there. But one of the things I wanted to talk about this week was JPS. If you guys remember like 10 years ago, around 2010, the big thing was JPS. How come? Well, that is back. A lot of complaints about high light bills, and so I want to talk about it a bit. Randy, are you in Jamaica or you're off the island right now?
I'm not in Jamaica yet, so I'm off the island.
I was gonna ask what your light bill is looking like.
Well, I do still have my bills in Jamaica, right? And I have actually seen a little bit of an increase, same way, even though I tried to manage before.
A little bit. That's not bad. Greg, what about you?
You know, I have used a little bit more electricity.
Yeah, it's been the same for me. So mine has been up slightly, but I've been using more electricity because my family has been home. My daughter's not in school. Husband's been home most of the time. So it's not out of what I would have expected. But I see other people complaining that their light bill has gone up by 100%, 500%. One even said 1,000%, and that sounds like something's not right. And there's been a plethora of complaints about the company. And it led me to thinking about JPS's IPO, which I don't know when it's coming. They had said middle of this year. Clearly that timeline would have been extended because of COVID. And do you think that this bad public sentiment towards the company might have an impact on their possible listing, Randy?
Yeah, I think it will have an impact on their listing, but not necessarily a bad impact. I think Jamaicans are used to JPS being a part of the life that we complain about, and now an opportunity to be able to own a piece of that thing is something that we would probably take pleasure in. I mean, put simply, I have to pay the bill every month, so I might as well own some.
So perhaps it makes it more attractive then?
Almost definitely.
Because people say, well, it's one of the things that you have to pay. Greg, what do you think?
I don't think it's going to have a material impact on IPO plans. You know, as Randy said, you know, it's a part of your everyday life. I think what will more impact it is how it's priced. But knowing the type of IPO it's going to be, there's going to be an incentive to price attractive, because at the end of the day, persons are going to want to know, can I make money on this thing? If it is priced in such a way, then I think that will have the most impact in terms of how people view it. Like, people are not going to say, well, I'm not going to buy it because they're whatever. If they can make money on it, that's going to determine what they do.
But I saw an article in the week as well calling for an end to JPS's monopoly license. And I'd have to double check, but I believe the article said something like the monopoly license expires this year, 2020, and they were calling for the monopolist part of it not to be renewed. I think that would have a pretty big impact on whether people want to invest or not invest in this company, don't you think, Randy?
Let's say hypothetically that was removed, which I don't expect it to be, but let's say that it was removed. The existence of competition does not make a company's IPO less attractive. In fact, if anything, it makes it more attractive, especially if another player enters, right? Cable and wireless, back when it was a listed company, we saw the rise in value that happened to it after the fall, of course, but the rise in value that happened to it when DIGICEL entered the market. So the existence of competition is not necessarily a bad thing. I think just it is truly a utility in Jamaica. The opportunity for it to be owned by Jamaicans is in itself great enough that any IPO for it will work. But whether or not they'll have a continuing good effect, that's another matter. And I think they do have some work to do now in terms of handling the current public relations, because people have been complaining a lot.
What's the thinking behind having the price go up when a competitor enters the market? Why does that make it more attractive?
I personally view it as, it's like verification of efforts. If nobody watches a one-horse race, as original man Ryan always says. If you have just one player and they have a monopoly status and they're cemented by the government, I mean, the market could be good, but we see where the government pretty much has had to guarantee profit for JPS. If somebody else enters the market, however, that then says that, one, consumers are going to be getting better services, and two, that's verification that someone else on their own thinks that this market is worth coming into. So it is something that it seems on the surface bad, but it's actually good, because it means that, wow, something is good enough here that people are fighting over it.
Greg, what are your thoughts on it? How do you think loss of monopoly status might affect a JPS?
I don't think it's too significant. I have a couple reasons. One, I mean, competition usually drives efficiency and innovation. So a new player coming into the market will actually probably prompt JPS to maybe further improve on certain aspects of their game. And secondly, you can't ignore the fact that, yes, JPS has been a monopoly, and as a result of that, they have a major competitive advantage. They own the grid. So if you're going to come to be a power provider, fine, you can generate it, but how are you going to distribute it? That's going to take you some time to build out. So in the short term, I mean, JPS would still probably stand to benefit even if a competitor comes into the market. But overall, it would probably be a positive thing, like when DIGICEL came in and, kind of changed up the game, and then we saw a resurgence of cable and wireless. I mean, that could happen. So it could be viewed as a positive thing, in my opinion.
And just to be clear, so what JPS has a monopoly on is distribution. So there are other power providers, but they sell to JPS, right, and then JPS has the monopoly on distributing it. So there are other people who can technically provide the power, but like you mentioned, the distribution would be a challenge. So let's move on to other happenings in the market. I saw Sagicor Real Estate X Fund posting their results. Randy, can you give us an overview of what that was?
I haven't gone through Sagicor's numbers yet, but X Fund's numbers, but I'd be surprised if they were good. I believe that they are tied heavily to the fates of Playa, the Playa Group, which is a hotel group that trades in the US, and it has its major holdings in the Caribbean and Mexico. The only good thing I can think off the top of my head that was happening with Playa is that they have sold, I believe, their drill chain, which is part of the chain that Sagicor sold in to buy into the Playa Group and exchange that for, I don't remember the amount, but they exchanged it for a sum of money and shares. And how they recognize the Playa shares. Yes, there we go. Thank you. So how they recognize the Playa shares on their books causes them to be, they book a loss if the share price ends the quarter below where it started, and Playa has had a long run of negative share prices. Coming in, they were looking at maybe a 3-year rebuild plan, and that was before Corona hit and slowed down tourism across the region. So now with them doing what, in my view, seems to be a push for cash, which is, we just bought the Jewel chain of hotels and we're actually selling it out already. They haven't stated publicly who they've sold it to, but they're selling it out. It seems to me like that's a company that's going through its own contraction in a rough time, and we know that tourism is probably the most affected sector, negatively affected sector in terms of Corona. So, I mean, they own a hotel chain right now as one of the biggest assets, and I think that story speaks for itself. So, I personally haven't seen anything good on the horizon for X Fund anytime soon. But again, I have not deep dive into the numbers, so
they posted a $4.5 billion loss.
That's about in line.
Greg?
X1 has been having quite a bit of issues, right? As Randy said, with the initial Playa transaction, how they had accounted for that was as an investment. So when the share price fell, they had to take the mark-to-market hit. But they subsequently reclassified it as an associate company because of how much ownership and influence they have. But after doing that, because of the material change in the business outlook for Playa, IFRS, you have to make an accounting impairment. So the impact of the negativity on tourism and closure of hotels, it has put Playa in a very difficult position. They had quite a bit of issues with liquidity, which is why they had to sell the hotels. And then they actually had to go to the market to raise debt. Mm-hmm. So what accountants are saying, there is a material change in that business and they have to write it down. Now, the impact of that is that Sagicor X1 had to take a $3.7 billion charge. Now, this may be written back if the business improves, but it's quite a big hit for them to take in one quarter, but it's not something I see as continuous moving forward. Hopefully, if things improve, they can write back some of the value. The company remains well capitalized for the most part, but it's going to go through a very, very difficult period, because Randy said they're heavily into tourism, and based on some of the numbers I've seen from some of the players, they're not anticipating a return to normalcy till some people have said even 2022. So as to where that will put the X Fund and how they see returns from that investment, and also their other investments, because the X Fund also owns tourism interest directly because they own a hotel in Orlando, and I think they still own the Jewel Montego Bay. So it's definitely not a rosy picture for them at this time, given what's happening.
So Randy, is there anything else that you've been monitoring in the market the past couple of weeks since you've been on? I know you guys go through them one by one on earnings season.
We've actually just completed a review of 20 of them. There's some standouts. I think maybe I'd say the most disappointing, I said disappointing, not in a bad way, but the term would actually be Greg's company or JMB, where they have a major move that they've made with Sagicor Financial. And it looks like at the front of that move, meaning the reporting Sagicor Financial's numbers, they may actually be looking at taking a bit of an impact, a little bit of a loss because of Sagicor Financial's results up to March 31st and the fact that they're an associate company at JMB. I think maybe that's one of the biggest things that stood out to me, because I have huge, and I still do have huge expectations for JMB's new investment in Sagicor Financial Corporation. But upfront, I think the impact that COVID has had on markets all over the world. I mean, Jamaica isn't immune, and because we have stretched out through JMMB and done a major move into Sagicor Financial, we have gotten some of the impact of that. So I think maybe that's one of the biggest things that come to mind. On the flip side, I am hoping that Jamaica Producers actually surprises us with some strong results, because they also have a presence in the European markets. And I believe that while lots of people have been home and there's been more muted commercial activity, the things that Jamaica Producers does in Europe, which is, sell a lot of fresh juices, they actually have one of the biggest fresh juice brands in Europe. That may have actually had wonderful sales. That, along with maybe a surprise coming from Kingston Wharves, means that I believe they may be primed for some big movement in the near term, let's say.
Interesting. Greg, what has caught your attention recently?
The performance of, some of the financial companies, well, as expected, have been negative. And, Randy mentioned Sagicor. We see First Caribbean booking 100 million impairment in Trinidad. A number of companies are now in their current quarterly financials. You start to see the fallout from the negative performance of markets, as well as for the banks, the increasing expected credit loss provisions start to go up. So I'm expecting that to have a negative tone. However, a lot of these provisions are upfront. So hopefully the recovery of the economy from COVID-19 moving forward will kind of maybe over time, kind of mute that impact. But in the market, looking at the last couple of weeks, we've seen a bit of an uptick in volume on certain names. As we approach the end of June, it's a quarter end. So, I've just been kind of monitoring that. But overall, the activity still remains relatively soft.
Thank you both for joining me. Randy, Greg, thanks for your analysis.
Take care.
Randy, bye. Since I know you've been traveling, you're jumping on a plane, you have confidence?
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in the N95 masks and washing my hands for 20 seconds.
All right, good. All right, thanks again, guys.
Let's take our final break. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers and Proven Wealth. That's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share with a friend. Also turn on those post notifications so that you can be the first to see all of my other videos. The goal is to get to 50,000 subscribers this year. We want to help people learn more about money so we can all get this money together. So share, share, share. Now this week on Money Mondays JA, I'm going to be telling you why cash for gold may be making a resurgence. On Money Moves JA with Exim Bank, have you ever thought about developing an app for your business or your business idea? Wondered how to go about it? I've got an app developer to walk us through the process. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kalila Ray, and follow Taking Stock JA on Instagram. If you want to connect with the analysts this week, check the description box below for their contact information, and tell a friend about Taking Stock. Investing is the new sexy, so let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Stay safe.